Right now, it's time for the Abrams Report with Dan.
Coming up, breaking news out of Aruba. Natalee Holloway's divorced parents have come together to demand that most of the senior officials working on the case be replaced. In a stinging 6-page letter, they accuse the Aruban authorities of asking for money, ignoring leads, and bungling the investigation. They want a whole new team. This, a day after the deputy police chief had some tough words on this program for Natalee's mother. Natalee's father, Dave, is with us. And legal analyst Daniel Horowitz fighting to remove a judge from a case he's working on after the judge allegedly said Daniel was under a cloud of suspicion in connection with the murder of his wife, Pamela Vitale. Plus, an exclusive look inside the house where Laci Peterson lived and died. The program about justice starts now. Hi, everyone. First up on the docket tonight, there is a war of words unraveling in Aruba. Natalee Holloway's divorced parents, who up to now have been proceeding separately, sign a letter. Here it is. You see Dave Holloway, Robin Holloway, Beth Twitty, Jug Twitty, all signing this letter in agreement with what is in this 6-page document. They are demanding that Aruba's Attorney General pull the team investigating Natalee's disappearance. Quote, "It has become increasingly difficult to hold our tongues. It is our contention that it is in the best interest of everyone concerned to instigate a fresh start in this case. We respectfully request that Dennis Jacobs, Karen Johnson, and Gerald Dompig be removed from the case." The letter goes on to say that when Dave Holloway asked the police to begin a search for Natalee 2 days after she went missing, the detective in charge of the investigation answered, quote, "Nah, this happens all the time. Just go on down to Carlos and Charlie's and have a beer. She'll show up sometime. She probably got drunk or fell in love and ran off with someone for a few days." They also had strong words for the Deputy Chief of Police, Gerald Dompig. Quote, "It is apparent that Dompig wants to incite anti-Beth Twitty feelings among the Aruban populace in a situation where he should be doing the exact opposite and appealing to the Aruban people for leads to solve Natalee's disappearance." This scathing letter comes just a day after we had an exclusive interview with the deputy. He was on the program yesterday, where he had some tough words of his own for the family.
With all due respect to Mrs. Twitty, she doesn't run the investigation. We do. And we ask the questions. If it was the other way around, we'd put all back up and let the family do the investigation.
Woo! All right. Joining me now on the phone is Dave Holloway, Natalee's father. He is one of the people who signed the letter. Dave, thanks for coming back on the program. Look, Dave, you have generally been a sort of calmer voice in connection with this investigation, and yet you did sign this scathing letter about the investigative team. Why?
Yes, we did. I was one of the last holdouts. I think Beth had been pushing for this for some time, and I went back to the island hoping to make one last push to get everybody together, hold some solid communications, and move forward with the case. And there at the end, I thought we were coming close and starting to gel and to move this forward, and suddenly it just fell apart.
But Dave, these are very serious accusations that you all are making in this letter. Let me read from one of them that apparently was regard to you, from a detective handling the case when you went to the police department to report Natalee missing. Quote, "Dennis Jacobs responded with the following inappropriate question: how much money do you have?"
That's correct, and there was 2 witnesses there that can confirm that.
And your understanding was he was effectively saying that in order to search for your daughter, that they would have to get paid?
Well, I don't know what his intentions were, Dan, but he made that comment. Whether he's making it in jest or whatever, I don't know. But he did make that comment.
All right. Now, another issue that, with regard to Detective Jacobs, and it seems to me that this I know is one of Beth's primary concerns, and I'm wondering if it's yours as well. Jacobs continues to theorize that Natalee is still alive, which may explain his lack of diligence in pursuing the suspects who are responsible for Natalee's disappearance.
That's correct. When I met with him last week, during our conversation, even though he is the lead investigator, he felt like Natalee was still alive.
He made it clear to you that he thinks Natalee, the lead investigator, made it clear to you that he thinks Natalee Holloway is alive, and thereby, I guess, suggesting that, what, she ran off?
Well, he really didn't comment on it. So I don't know. It just he just made that comment that was his theory. There were 4 theories on the board. One of them was she ran away. The other is she's alive. The other was that Yoren left her at the beach and the Mountain Brook kids did something with her. And the other theory is the most objective and common theory was that the 3 boys had something to do with her disappearance, possibly taking her out in the ocean.
Dave, before I play a piece of sound from the Deputy Police Chief, Gerald Dompig, on the show last night, let me ask you, you and your ex-wife, Beth, have gone about this sort of on 2 separate routes. You've gone there at different times. I've gotten the impression that it's not as if the 2 of you have been coordinating your efforts. You know what the other one is doing, but is this this letter signed by you and your wife and she and her husband, is this sort of the most unified effort that the 2 of you have made together on this?
Yes, it would be. I was one of the ones who held out, hoping that the police would come together and complete their investigation. And it just finally got to the point where, we've got tunnel vision, and a lot of peripheral issues started coming up. And, why aren't we focusing back on the 3 suspects? Why are we talking about issues that don't even involve the case? And that's where I started getting frustrated. And I felt like, it's time. It's the 4th quarter, and time's almost up. Why don't we just start all over and start out with a whole new, fresh team?
Here's what Gerald Dompig said in an exclusive interview on this program last night.
I think anybody should understand and can understand that we have made a lot of efforts to conduct a professional investigation, and in any case, we have given the family every chance to sit with us and to take their statements.
You disagree with that, Dave?
Well, let's take a pen and pencil and draw a line through it, and you put on one side what the family and the foreigners and people from the U.S. have done, and then you put on the other side what have the police done. We delivered, when we came to the island, we identified the suspects, all 3 of them, and handed it to them on a silver platter. We also identified the witness, who is the gardener. We also had a person from the U.S. come down and literally almost got a confession out of Deepak. We found a lot of evidence that they have not used for one reason or the other. We've done most of all the searches, and then my question is what have the police done?
Yeah. Dave Holloway, as always, thank you for taking the time to come on the program.
Thank you.
And again, as Dave points out, this is a unique joint effort, because Dave and his ex-wife, Beth, have been going at this in different ways. Beth has been out there criticizing the authorities earlier. Dave now joining in this letter saying it is time to get rid of most of the team investigating this case. Joining me now is Aruban attorney Chris Lejeune, EquiSearch director Tim Miller, who's been back and forth to Aruba looking for Natalee over the past 5 months, and MSNBC analyst and former FBI investigator Clint Van Sant. All right, Chris, you're down there in Aruba. How are the Aruban authorities going to react to this?
Well, I wonder. I think the signal that they're getting is a very strong one. I believe after I read their letter that they cannot ignore its contents. They really do have to look into matters.
There is one point in this letter, and this is number 3 here, where the letter says that the detective handling the case neglected to ask a follow-up question, Clint. And it says, quote, Yoren says, quote, I think that Deepak killed Natalee and buried her body. There is no follow-up question as to why or where. It seems that they are quoting from some sort of statement there, Clint, where Yoren said that.
I saw the statement, you know, Dan. I am not involved.
I know. I'm hang on a sec, Chris. I'm going to Clint Van Sant on that.
Yeah, Dan, I saw the statement when I was down in Aruba for MSNBC. I saw the statement that the police allegedly took from Vandersloot, where he makes that, where Vandersloot says that, and I read that, and I kind of came up over the top of the desk, and I said, well, where's the rest of the questions? Where's the follow-up questions? Where's the rest of the story? And Dan, this is what's frustrated me in this case. It appears that the police simply sat there and listened to what he had to say and said, oh yeah, that's nice, wrote it down, no follow-ups. They took a statement without asking any other questions.
Clint, look, you are a longtime investigator, and I think many would characterize you as a, I hate to use the cliche, but an investigator's investigator. A guy, the other investigators, the FBI team, they like you, they respect you. As someone who is on that side of law enforcement, how do you feel about this letter from Beth and Dave Holloway basically saying, we need a whole new team in there looking at this case?
Yeah. Well, your staff provided me a copy of the letter, obviously, and I've read it. You know, the letter was written by Art Wood, who's a former Secret Service agent, who's been working both for the newspaper in Aruba as well as helping a family out. I know Art. I know him from down there. He's a good, solid guy. But, you know, Art's fingerprints are all over this, but I think Art is just frustrated from the investigator's standpoint, and I think he's been able to pull the family together and say, hey, at this point, shaking everybody's hand, slapping them on the back, saying, go get them, guys, doesn't appear
But this is well beyond that, Clint. This is well beyond saying, let's not slap them on the back. This is saying, get rid of them. I mean, this is, the accusations in here are very serious. I mean, talking about one detective who's asking about money, other detectives who were saying, oh, just go have a beer?
Or shouldn't the FBI, you know, shouldn't the students who were down there with her, they now are supposed to make contact of their own volition, either by phone or email, because the police now all of a sudden want to ask follow-up questions that they think the FBI didn't ask in the United States, which you know, if the Aruba police have never asked one follow-up question yet, I don't know where they pulled a new follow-up question out of the air.
Here's what I want to do. I want to do two things. After this break, I want to play a piece of sound from Gerald Dompig on the show last night, where he's talking about exactly what he wants from the friends of Natalee Holloway. And we still got Tim Miller with us from EquiSearch, because a lot of the criticism in this case was saying, look, the authorities, they're not helping out with the team from EquiSearch that's out there every day trying to look for Natalee. Talk to Tim what he thinks about all this. And we'll get an exclusive look inside the house where Scott Peterson lived with Laci Peterson before he allegedly killed her. Plus, the CIA reportedly interrogating terror suspects in secret jails around the world where they could be using some, let's just say, tough tactics to get suspects to talk. We debate. Your email, abrams.report@msnbc.com. Please include your name, where you're writing from. I respond at the end of the show.
You're getting the whole truth and nothing but on the Abrams Report with Dan Abrams on MSNBC.
Ford product engineers work hard. Anybody can see that. Since they need to be with the cars, we took out their desk phones and extended the workplace with Sprint Business. It's helping us shorten the time from concept to showroom, and it's easy to reach them. Dan?
Dan's gonna have to call you back.
By saying yes to working from anywhere, we're building more new products faster.
With Sprint Business, you can make just about any place a workplace. Yes, you can.
Thank you very much.
Now you can fly American for less than you think every day.
Where are we going?
It's a surprise. We know why you fly. We're American Airlines.
Introducing the new 2006 Cadillac DTS. With the Northstar V8 and the world's fastest reacting suspension system. Move in a new direction. The new Cadillac DTS. Breakthrough.
I should have done this a long time ago.
Ready? Pull! Pull! No more credit card debt.
Want to get rid of your credit card debt, increase your cash flow, and lower your monthly payments?
Get a $49 flat fee second mortgage from Ditech.com.
Now it's my turn.
They lost another loan to Ditech.
Log on or call 1-800-71-FIX.
I got it because I couldn't take dial-up another second.
Dial-up was so slow.
This is dial-up noise. I had it with the noise.
We all had it with the noise.
More and more people are getting it. Getting Verizon Online DSL, that is. Especially now that it's just $14.95 a month.
With DSL, it's so fast.
It's like boom. I click, I'm connected.
You want to download a file, it's right there.
Finally download music like everyone else.
I don't have to worry about incoming calls.
I can be on the computer and she's on the phone.
Verizon Online DSL makes doing everything online so much easier and so much faster. And now it's at our lowest price ever, just $14.95 a month. Compare that to cable.
It costs about the same as dial-up.
It's not that expensive. It's really cheap.
It costs less than cable.
Call 1-866-543-9375 to get Verizon Online DSL. That's 1-866-543-9375 for the best value in broadband.
We got Verizon Online DSL.
And we are never going back to dial-up.
You want to go back?
No, I don't want to go back to that.
Maybe some people are getting nervous because we want more detailed statements from the Alabama kids. And no one is saying that the focus is off these three boys. No, we just need more answers, and maybe these answers can also help us to make the case stronger against these three boys.
Maybe, Clint Van Zandt, but the problem, and again, we're talking about this letter that has been signed by Beth Holloway and her ex-husband, the first time they've come together in the Natalee Holloway case, saying they want a whole new team down there in Aruba. You hear Gerald Dompig, the deputy police chief down there on this program last night, saying, look, you know, some people may not like it, but we need more answers from some of the friends of Natalee Holloway. And he's saying that doesn't necessarily mean we're not still looking at the three suspects, but it sure does sound like it's possible that he's not. And I think that's what drives the family crazy.
I think it does too, Dan. Number one, just as you say, he's saying we need to ask more questions of these kids who've been interviewed and interviewed and interviewed time and again. And his lead detective is suggesting that Natalee is what? Either a runaway or a kidnap victim. Either way, it's still a case that needs to be investigated, that the Arubans just have not pressed the case to find her.
Tim Miller is with EquiSearch. He's been down there quite a bit. Tim, a lot of the disputes seem to be focusing on your team's relationship with the authorities down there. This letter is basically saying, look, we can't work with them anymore. They're not helping us out. How have you found the Aruban authorities to be in terms of helping you out?
You know, in the beginning, I think it was very difficult. We was led to believe one thing, and I think that we crossed that hurdle a little bit. And I remember when Gerald Dompig kind of took the case over, and I met with him, and I was kind of impressed with him, if you want to know the truth. We had some new blood, basically, on the case. And when we went there, when we got there 2 weeks ago, we had what I thought was a wonderful meeting with Gerald. And he told us the areas he wanted us to search. We let him know that we could do stuff up to 150 foot deep with the equipment that we had, but we was going to be in 800 to 1,000 feet of water. And we tried to schedule some things, and we lost communication. And you know, I got a phone call this morning while I was drinking my coffee. I mean, Natalee case had just been eating at us, and it was Gerald Dompig. And he really apologized to me for the lack of communication last week while we was there. Gerald's words to me was, Tim, you know what? I really don't think that Natalee's alive, and we do have to find her. He said, I'm looking forward to you coming back to the island. I think Gerald's been overwhelmed. He's been hitting every single direction. And you know what? Right now, what I would like to do is go ahead, mobilize again, go on back over there. I think we're going to get 100% cooperation.
I don't know about that anymore.
Gerald right now.
After this letter, Tim, I mean, you can understand why after this letter there could be some new problems.
Well, you know what? I think they can deal with those problems. I'd kind of like to ask Dave and Beth, maybe, you know what? It's been almost 5 months now. Let's step back for a couple weeks and kind of take some deep breaths and stuff, and kind of everybody hold their tongue and allow us to go back over there. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, think that we're going to get the equipment over there we need. We're going to be able to search the areas that they want searched. And Gerald and I talked this morning, if she is out there, even with the sophisticated equipment we're taking, chances are slim. But you know what? Let's work together and do everything we can possibly do. And I'm looking forward to going back over there. And the problems with Gerald and me right now, I think that they're repaired. And I want to focus on locating Natalee.
They say in this letter that they're saying it is becoming increasingly difficult to hold our tongues. And here's what Gerald Dompig said on the program last night, again, talking about wanting those interviews with those other teens, talking about his relationship with the FBI, and I had some words for Beth Holloway Twitty as well.
We have spoken to the FBI, and the deal is that we will ask them officially to assist us with all the investigative requests and questions we still have towards the Alabama teens. And that's going to happen, and we're just going to have a kind of like a no-nonsense approach, not the emotional stuff. And I regret that the family or Mrs. Twitty tries to throw us off track, but I am steadfast.
All right. Well, we shall see what happens. I know that Dave Holloway has been listening into this conversation, and you've been hearing what Tim's been saying from EquiSearch. We'll let the two of you talk in private about some of this stuff, because I think that you probably want to have an off-the-record conversation about some of that. So we'll let you do that. Clint Van Sant, thanks very much. And Chris LeJouet, thank you. Appreciate it. Switching topics now, news is coming out about secret CIA prisons around the world where captured al-Qaeda leaders, some of the worst, are being held in various countries. To give you some idea of what may go on there, Vice President Cheney recently asked Senator John McCain to exempt CIA employees from a measure that would ban any cruel and degrading treatment of prisoners. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has the story.
While the world has focused on prisoner abuse in Iraq and Guantanamo, intelligence sources tell the Washington Post and NBC News that more than 100 terrorist suspects have been interrogated in a hidden prison system in Thailand and 2 Eastern European countries, along with other secret locations. Among the star prisoners, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Osama bin Laden's former number 3 in command, Abu Zubaydah, bin Laden's operations chief, and 9/11 planner Ramzi bin al-Shid. Washington Post reporter Dana Priest uncovered the story of the so-called black sites.
This system is completely secret. We know nothing really about how it operates. And in fact, its existence is known only to a handful of U.S. officials.
The CIA's secret prison system was set up, say officials, to avoid giving the prisoners legal rights and permit controversial interrogation techniques. News of the prisons could create problems for their host countries, especially European allies.
The rest of the world, and particularly the part that counts in this context, the Muslim world, is going to see one more example of Americans not really caring about Muslims.
Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
NBC's Andrea Mitchell mentioned President Bush has actually threatened to veto the military spending bill that includes Senator McCain's measure if the administration doesn't effectively get its way. Ron Kuby's a criminal defense attorney and co-host of the talk show Curtis and Kuby on New York WABC Radio. Jan Ting is a Temple University law professor, a former assistant commissioner for Immigration and Naturalization Service. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, Ron, sure, look, I think everyone would agree with the general notion people shouldn't be tortured. What about the idea that when you talk about a term like not using degrading techniques, that there's something so vague about that it's going to tie their hands unnecessarily?
Well, the problem is what the past 4 years in the anti-terrorist fight have shown is they need to have their hands tied. We saw what happened in Guantanamo. We saw the photographs of Abu Ghraib and the abuses there, none of which made us any safer. All it did was to fuel the insurgency and act as a recruiting poster for al-Qaeda.
But no one's justifying that. I mean, Ron, no one has come out and said, oh, you know what happened at Abu Ghraib was okay. No, in fact, they've said just the opposite.
Well, that's right. So what we need to do is to put into place a system that is designed to prevent those kinds of abuses, not a system that is designed to permit those kinds of abuses. Now, I recognize that any word in the English language is subject to a variety of interpretations, including degrading, humiliating, cruel, even torture. I mean, in this administration, we're arguing about what the word torture means. The last administration, we argued what the word sex meant. I understand that. but you have some guidelines, you have some language that does restrict what they can do, and then we can talk about what constitutes degrading versus what constitutes a legitimate interrogation technique, as opposed to what we have now, which is a system, particularly with these black camps that the CIA has set up, where there's no monitoring, no oversight, no rules, and no regulation.
Well, Jan, is that true? I mean, I thought that there still are rules that they have to abide by.
Well, I think so. I mean, the Senate Intelligence Committee and the committee in the House are fully informed of everything that's going on in the intelligence agency, so there is oversight. Just the fact that we don't know about all these camps isn't necessarily the worst thing. Do we need to know? I don't think we do.
Forget about knowing about the camp.
As your reporter says, we have political issues in our host countries, and problems would be created if it became
I understand. Look, no one.
Where these camps
Jan,
were.
again, no one. Wait, Jan, wait.
On the other question
wait
of
a second.
degrading.
No, I don't want. You can't do the hit and run. I mean, the bottom line is no one's talking about naming the countries. All right. Even the journalists who got the names of the countries aren't naming them because they are concerned and they accepted the administration's representation that it would put those countries in danger.
Ron, there is congressional oversight. Congress is satisfied with the level of oversight.
Well, I've got to tell you,
I just don't see that there's a problem there.
Jan, I've got to tell you, these camps were set up specifically to prevent the type of review that we have in the United States through the federal court system and the federal judiciary, a system that served our country well in war and in peace for over 200 years.
Let him respond.
Ron,
okay,
as you know, Ron, it's a huge leap to say that enemy combatants detained outside the United States have any rights at all before American courts in the United States. So I just think that's a leap beyond where we are legally.
What about this? What about the use of the terms?
On the question of McCain.
What about the use of the terms? The cruel and the degrading, inhuman. The reason those terms are being used is because those are the terms from the Geneva Convention. And basically, what the supporters are saying is we just need to be in step with the rest of the world.
I respect Ron's views on this issue, and I have no doubt he speaks for a lot of people who view this as a simple question of right and wrong. I have to say, I don't think it's a simple question. I think it's a very difficult question of right and wrong. When the reality is, when we have people like the Al-Qaeda leaders that you enumerated in the piece, who know about plans that are underway to attack civilians in the United States and in other countries, who know about plans to attack our military, we need to interrogate these individuals, and we have to find out what's going on. And I think we have to cut our people some slack here. I want these people interrogated. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them tortured. The administration
and that's what I said at the top. Here's Vice President Cheney. Here's Vice President Cheney talking about this issue, and I want Ron to respond to it.
We're going to spend time in the shadows in the intelligence world. A lot of what needs to be done here will have to be done quietly, without any discussion, using sources and methods that are available to our intelligence agencies if we're going to be successful. That's the world these folks operate in. And so it's going to be vital for us to use any means at our disposal, basically, to achieve our objective.
Ron, do you dispute most of that?
I do, and I dispute it not on some sort of philosophical or moralistic basis. I dispute it on a practical basis. It's been 4 years since 9/11, and in that period of time, American soldiers and CIA agents have done everything from lap dances on Al-Qaeda prisoners to slapping them around, to kicking them, to shoving glow lights up their rectums, to tying panties on their head, to beating them to death in one place or another. And in all of that time, we never found and diffused the ticking time bomb through those techniques.
How do you know?
What we did,
how do you know?
Because you know what, Dan? The Bush administration, had any of this been successful, you better believe the Bush administration would have told us, gee, using these torture techniques, in fact, paid dividends.
Look,
but what we do know...
Again, no one's justifying the torture. I got to go. It's Ron and Jan, thanks.
All right.
The medicines, the plastics, the materials, things that make modern life modern come from one place, chemistry. Learn more at AmericanChemistry.com.
commitment, innovation, winning attitude, urgency, quality, standards to live by. Joseph A. Bank Clothiers, the definition of classic. No other clothing comes even close. Joseph A. Bank.
Hey, down here. Filling up with Shell gasoline, right?
Yeah?
Apply now and get a Shell MasterCard, and I'd be your 15% rebate. That's 35 cents a gallon at $2.35 a gallon. Good for your first 60 days. Just imagine all the rebates.
You get 15% rebates for 60 days with the new Shell MasterCard account when you apply by January 15, 2006. Call 1-877-MY-SHELL or stop by your nearest Shell station.
Each engineering innovation we make helps you overcome another challenge on the road. The GMC Envoy and Envoy XL with StabiliTrak, standard. We can't be certain how you'll use our SUVs, so we engineer them all to the highest standard. Professional grade.
Are you still being charged too much for internet service? Still waiting for a better deal? Well, your wait is over. With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for just $10.95 a month. And you get accelerator technology free for an entire year. That's a $60 value. Visit up to 5 web pages in the time it used to take to visit one, and pay just $10.95 a month. Plus, our smart dialer automatically chooses the fastest, most reliable access number. Want more? You even get security tools to help protect you from spam, pop-ups, and email viruses. Compare us side by side with your current ISP. Go to peoplepc.com to try us free for 30 days. Surf up to 5 times faster for an entire year with free accelerator technology. All this for just $10.95 a month. But hurry, this special offer is for a limited time only. Go online or call 1-800-748-0592. People PC Online with free accelerator. A better way to internet.
President Jimmy Carter plays hardball, telling Chris what he thinks the Bush administration needs to do to win back the trust of the American public. Hardball, MSNBC tonight at 7. Tonight, record profits for oil companies, record fuel bills for your family. Joe takes your outrage to Capitol Hill for real answers. Scarborough Country, MSNBC tonight at 10.
Coming up, an exclusive look inside Laci and Scott Peterson's Modesto home, coming up after the headlines.
I'm Colette Cassidy. Here's what's happening. The body of civil rights pioneer Rosa Parks is being taken by horse-drawn carriage right now to a Detroit cemetery. There it will be placed in a mausoleum along with the bodies of her husband and mother. The procession to the cemetery follows this funeral service at a Detroit church that lasted about 7 hours. Former President Bill Clinton and the Reverend Jesse Jackson delivered eulogies. A day after President Bush unveiled his $7.1 billion strategy to deal with the potential bird flu pandemic, the administration released details of the plan. They include imposing travel restrictions, rationing scarce vaccines, and housing the sick in hotels and schools when hospitals overflow. Meantime, President and Mrs. Bush welcomed Prince Charles and his wife Camilla to the White House for a small luncheon today. Washington is the second stop on the royal couple's week-long 4-city tour of the U.S. They arrived in New York yesterday. After lunch, Mrs. Bush and the royals visited a school. Tonight, they'll be guests of honor at a White House dinner. Those are your headlines. I'm Colette Cassidy. Now back to the Abrams Report.
It is one of the most famous crime scenes in America, and up to now, we've only seen pictures and pieces of grainy police and home videos. But now, Inside Edition got an exclusive look inside the house where Laci Peterson called her dream home. It's where Scott and Laci lived and where a jury believed Scott killed her. It sold for close to $400,000 this summer. The new owner has not changed a thing, not even painting the walls. Deborah Norville is the anchor of Inside Edition, and she joins me now as we will look at that tape. Deborah, good to see you again.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good. All right. So as we start to look at some of this tape, give us a sense. Is the owner, do you know, ever planning on actually living there and moving in, or is he going to effectively preserve it as some sort of museum?
Absolutely. The former, he plans to live there. The owner's name is Jerry Roberts. He's a real estate guy himself. And he purchased this house, he says, with the full intention of living there with his daughter, of turning this infamous house into an intimate home. And as you can see from these pictures, which we've never seen before, we all imagined what it was like inside the Peterson home, but it's actually a lot bigger, I think, than I thought it was. He gave an exclusive tour to our reporter, Jim Murray, and the backyard is spacious. That's the counter where we had seen Laci cooking the pasta or whatever it was in her bikini that time. This is the family room, kind of walking down the hall, and that, of course, is the room where little Connor was going to spend his first months had he actually lived to be born. Interesting thing about the house, it's very private, very intimate, very secluded. There's a stone wall, so there's almost a walled courtyard before you get to the front entrance of the house, and the backyard is quite spacious too. Interestingly enough, when Mr. Roberts was going through the house, he made what he feared was a gruesome discovery. In the backyard area, there was an outdoor sink, and underneath the sink, he found a serrated knife. Well, you can imagine what that was like, with the idea that perhaps this home was the murder scene. And while you say it was a murder scene, the fact is, as you know, the police were never able to pinpoint where, in fact, Scott Peterson murdered Laci. The supposition was it happened in the home, but they were never able to prove that, and obviously it wasn't something the jury needed to see anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, but the bottom line is they still laid it out in the indictment and the charge, the location of the murder being that home. Can you give us a sense of how Inside Edition was able to get inside?
Yeah, when the house was put on the market, it was, as you know, very kind of closed, and you know, the media was obviously, everybody was trying to get in there. Once the purchase was completed, we made contact with Mr. Roberts, and he agreed to let us come in. He lost his job, if you can believe this, Dan, over his contact with the media, not specifically with Inside Edition, but when he purchased the home and found the knife that I mentioned a moment ago, he turned it over to police. It was tested for blood. None was found, so they don't believe it had any connection to anything to do with Laci's death. But it became a bit of a mini news story. In the course of that, he did have some contact with the media, and his former employer had said, "We don't want you talking to the media if you buy the Peterson house." And apparently over that contact with the media, he lost his job.
You miss us, Deborah?
I miss you a lot. Yeah, you guys do.
Really?
You guys do the best job. You know, it was a schedule thing. I actually had to dump my kids at home, dash over here so I could come and talk to you. And I remembered the juggling act was the thing that was tricky when I was doing the 9 o'clock show.
I hope life is the lifestyle is a better one now.
The lifestyle is great. Yeah, you know, we're still doing good stories. We're still covering the same stuff that you guys at MS do so well, and it's fun to get a chance to show some pictures that you won't see anywhere other than Inside. Put them on MSNBC too.
Deborah, thanks. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Dan.
For more Inside the Peterson home, you got Inside Edition. Check your local listings. Coming up, Daniel Horowitz back at work fighting to remove a judge from a case after the judge apparently said Daniel was under a cloud of suspicion in connection with his wife's murder. And later, more concerns about voter fraud in the country. This time, it is a vote many will never forget from our childhood. My closing argument. Your emails, Abrams Report at MSNBC.com. Please include your name, where you're writing from. I'll respond at the end of the show.
Wherever hope is the only thing left, wherever lives can be turned right side up, wherever natural disasters call for acts of God, that is where your donations to the Salvation Army go. Help those who have been affected by Hurricane Katrina. Donate today at 1-800-SAL-ARMY or salvationarmyusa.org.
A microdermabrasion resurfaces. A mini peel refinishes. Olay introduces a new at-home treatment. Regenerous microdermabrasion and peel. 2 treatments, 1 system. To get significant skin improvement, stay home.
Holiday after holiday, one recipe always finds a way to our table. Green bean casserole made with Campbell's cream of mushroom. Come home to a home-cooked meal.
People see all kinds of things in clouds. But the one thing they never never see coming is a flood. Protect your home from America's most common natural disaster. Call 1-888-RAIN-919 for a free flood insurance brochure, because homeowners insurance doesn't cover floods.
Coming up, Daniel Horowitz fighting to remove a judge from the case after the judge apparently said Daniel was under a cloud of suspicion in connection with his wife's murder. Details are after the break.
Building the fastest car in its class doesn't mean leaving intelligence, beauty, and control behind. Introducing the all-new 306 horsepower IS from Lexus at your Lexus dealer.
What if you could capture your happiest moments on a real U.S. postage stamp? Well, now you can with photo stamps. Just go to photostamps.com, upload your favorite photos, and soon you'll be sending mail with your own personalized stamps. It's that easy. So go ahead. Take your most precious moments and turn them into your very own postage stamps with photostamps.com. Imagine the possibilities. Log on to photostamps.com today.
Between my two phone bills, it's probably about $60 a month.
About $150.
Probably $100 a month.
With Vonage, you get unlimited calls to anywhere in the U.S. and Canada, and all the cool features you could ever want are included. And it's just $24.99 a month. Call 1-800-972-4VON and get your first month free. This offer is also available online and at these fine retailers. Vonage, the #1 internet phone service.
MSNBC Tonight. Americans in Mexico. Kidnapped, killed, just miles from U.S. soil. Reporters have died trying to tell the story. Now a Rita Cosby special investigation uncovers the truth at this deadly border. Rita Cosby live and direct. MSNBC Tonight at 9.
New details emerging in the murder of Pamela Vitale, wife of high-profile attorney Daniel Horowitz. We have confirmed with the Antioch, California police that the suspect's father in that case brought police 6 guns to be destroyed just hours before his son was arrested. And in other news, Daniel Horowitz is back at work. He wants a judge presiding over a case he's working on tossed based on what the judge allegedly said about the case. Now remember, Pamela Vitale killed October 15th. 5 days later, the very day of Pamela's memorial service, Horowitz was due in court. And one of 3 defense attorneys in an insurance fraud case. For obvious reasons, he didn't show up. The Modesto Bee reports Judge Terrence Van Oss called the other lawyers to the bench, where apparently, off the record, he said Horowitz was, quote, under a cloud of suspicion. This is before the sheriff announced Scott Zaleski's arrest. In a motion filed earlier this week, Horowitz writes, I understand that he may have intended no harm in making any remarks. However, regardless of any explanation or clarification, there is the appearance and/or reality of bias. We contacted Judge Van Oss to ask if he had any comment. His response, no, absolutely none. Joining me now is former prosecutor and friend of Daniel Horowitz, Stephen Clark. All right, Steve, let's take these issues separately. First, the news that the father of the suspect went in to have 6 guns destroyed hours before his son was arrested. What could this mean?
Probably that the father was trying to avoid any kind of a confrontation with the police. Perhaps he knew the arrest was imminent, and he didn't want his son to have access to guns where all of a sudden there could be a shootout. I'm sure it was a safety precaution, and I think it made a lot of sense under that scenario. As soon as the police go to make an arrest and they hear guns in the house, things can get out of hand in very short order.
But it's also possible, right? I mean, I guess no one's been charged with anything. They haven't charged the father with doing anything inappropriate, but it does seem kind of odd.
The timing of it is odd, and I'm sure they'll look into it, but I think it was probably a public safety kind of situation. Perhaps he also didn't want his son to be associated with guns. But I mean, clearly after this arrest, I mean, we're now all talking about it. So I think it was more to avoid a confrontation when the police came to make that arrest. I think the father knew that the arrest was coming.
All right, so you just think it's something of a non-issue?
I don't think you know, because the nature of the homicide was such that it didn't involve a gun.
Right, okay.
You know, perhaps it also shows that the son, you know, had access to guns, but didn't want to use one, and maybe that's a mitigating factor as well.
All right, now let's talk about this issue. Daniel is getting back to work. I talked to him today. He seems to be in much better spirits than he had been last week when I spoke with him last. And he believes that this judge could have a bias against him based on this comment made. The other side would say, look, no one had been ruled out at that point. No one had been arrested. Actually, let's put up number 1 here. This is the Contra Costa Sheriff's Office, Jimmy Lee, the spokesperson. This is what he was saying on October the 17th.
We're not focused on anyone, nor have we ruled anyone out. It's still a wide open investigation.
And based on that, he also said they've interviewed Mr. Daniel Horowitz, and he's been very cooperative. Is it so unfair of the judge to have said that? Let's assume for a minute that the judge said Daniel's under a cloud of suspicion. Let's assume for a moment he wasn't following the case that closely, and he said, you know, he's under a cloud of suspicion. Does that mean he can't be fair in this insurance case?
If I was in Dan's shoes, I'd have filed the same motion. I think it's an incredibly insensitive comment, whether he made it just up at the bench or whether he made it in open court where Dan's clients could hear it. It obviously creates an impression that Dan Horowitz may have killed his wife. And if you're Dan Horowitz's client, do you really want a judge that's going to be hearing a major fraud case imply that to your client?
In particular, when that cloud was all based on conjecture.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, but what was going on is that there's the tip line, there's a lot of other things going on, and if you create the impression that Dan Horowitz somehow was involved, that may impede the investigation. Maybe people will think this has been solved and they won't come forward. I was frankly quite shocked when I heard the comment, whether it was made at the bench or not. I think it's something that a judge would be sensitive
What do you make
to not
of
saying.
One of the lawyers in that case is saying he thinks that the transcript from that date was sanitized in some way. What do you make of that?
Well, what he's implying is that the comment was made on the record and that the judge instructed his court reporter to excise it from the record.
That's a very serious allegation.
It is a serious allegation, and it could result in, you know, some kind of penalty on the judge for doing that, if that's in fact what happened. I mean, things are said in court all the time, and I think we have this impression that the court reporters take everything down. When there is chit-chat among the lawyers and things like that, it's not always taken down. So I don't think you can infer that just that it wasn't in the record, even though it may have been said. But nevertheless, when Dan brought the motion on October 31st to have the judge removed from the case, a motion for cause, and then it's not in the record, and then, you know, then you get into an issue that, are you trying to sanitize the record, and that then jeopardizes your client to a fair hearing.
Well, look, I think if it was said, I think if it was said, you're probably right. Just to avoid any potential perception of conflict, the judge should probably back out. But I think there may be a question as to whether it was said. Well, we'll stay on top of this. And Steve Clark, as always, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Coming up, the Abrams Report on the case following allegations of potential election fraud across the country, but there is more at stake than something like an attorney general, a president, or a mayor. No, this is a vote related to something that so many either loved or dreaded as teenagers. My closing argument. And our continuing series, Manhunt Sex Offenders on the Loose, our effort to help find missing sex offenders before they strike again. This week we're focusing on Delaware. The authorities would like your help finding Monty Hall, that's his real name, 30, 5'9", 120, convicted of 2 counts of rape with victim under the age of 16. He's wanted by the state on other charges. If you've got any information on his whereabouts, please call the authorities there, 302-856-5850. Right back.
Resilient fabrics. Insulation that shrugs off the weather. Energy-saving appliances. Durable surroundings. How do you make all of that happen? With the right chemistry. Improving the things we all need is a goal to live by, and it's ours. Dow. Living improved daily.
Commitment. Innovation. Winning attitude. Urgency. Quality. Standards to live by. Joseph A. Bank Clothiers. The definition of classic. No other clothing comes even close. Joseph A. Bank.
Introducing the new 2006 Cadillac DTS. With a Northstar V8 and the world's fastest reacting suspension system. Move in a new direction. The new Cadillac DTS. Breakthrough.
McPhee & Associates, King Brokers. Hi.
Now with free incoming plans from Sprint Business, it's easier to say yes when customers call. And with our buy one, get one free deal, you and your company can say yes. Sprint Business gives you free incoming calls from all phones, all networks, all the time. So you can make just about any place a workplace. Call 877-63-SPRINT or visit a Sprint or Nextel store today. Sprint Business. Yes, you can.
When you listen to live music, something magical happens. Now you can enjoy this magic at home with the Wave Music System from Bose. Stephen Williams of Newsday claims there are critical listeners who could make the Wave Music System their primary home system. Forbes FYI says you'll think you're listening to a system that costs 5 times more. Just slide in your favorite CD or MP3 CD, or listen to FM or AM. You'll experience the difference Bose technology makes, and add the new multi-CD changer for even more enjoyment. So order yours today and enjoy Bose sound risk-free for 30 days. Ask about making 12 easy payments with no interest charges from Bose. Order now for free shipping. The Bose Wave Music System. Hear what you've been missing.
President Jimmy Carter plays hardball, telling Chris what he thinks the Bush administration needs to do to win back the trust of the American public. Hardball. MSNBC. Next.
MSNBC Tonight. Ambassador Joe Wilson, center of the CIA leak scandal, tells Keith about the frightening moment his wife's secret identity was leaked and how the national scandal turned their lives upside down. The personal side of this story you haven't heard on Countdown with Keith Olbermann. MSNBC Tonight at 8.
My closing argument, the Wall Street Journal is reporting on a major issue regarding election fraud in this country that should serve as a wake-up call for every American. An issue we can all understand and appreciate. Now, we're not talking about presidential election fraud or even statewide fraud. And we're not even talking about a local election for county treasurer. We're talking about something much more personal. A battle being waged over the jealously guarded votes for Homecoming Queen. The Journal reporting that these elections have become so contentious and competitive that it sounds more like applying for a job with the FBI. Background checks, applications, community service hours, all at issue. And at one Florida school, a familiarity with the state's touchscreen voting process implemented after the Bush v. Gore voting debacle back in 2000. That's right, Wesley Chapel High School outside Tampa, Florida, borrowed Pasco County's touchscreen voting machines to conduct this year's vote for the homecoming court. The unchallenged result? Whitney Howard and Mark Quiles were crowned Queen. This past weekend at the homecoming football game against Mitchell High School. My staff has been on top of this story. Wesley Chapel teacher Scott Nichols told the Abrams Report, because the homecoming elections tended to be quite dramatic, he revamped the whole process this year in an effort to make it more of a civics lesson for students. He's hoping students considered voting for Whitney and Mark a practice run for when they vote for president in 2008. Come on. Yeah, these elections can get competitive. I went to college in the South. Oh, I know homecoming's a big deal. But what's next? Encouraging students to passing notes in class to teach students how to be journalists? These homecoming elections are out of hand. Claiming that these new substantive requirements make it less about popularity and more about qualifications is like saying the Miss American pageant is substantially different because of the question and answer session. It's nice that the kids are going to know how to use the voting machines, but I'm concerned that when they go to vote for the real thing, they'll be thinking more about who would look better in a tiara than who would be the elected representative. Coming up. So many of you writing in about Monday's guest, Ann Coulter. Yikes. We're going to read some of the cleaner emails. is a family show, after all.
When it comes to finding the love of your life, what qualities are you looking for in someone?
The #1 quality I was looking for was character.
Kindness.
Somebody who is honest.
Great sense of humor. At eHarmony.com, we only match you with other singles who are compatible with you in all the areas that matter most in life.
eHarmony has, without a doubt, helped me to find the love of my life.
It begins with the powerful experience of getting your personality profile. Yours free when you log on today.
What tobacco issues are important to you?
The health effects. That's what I'm concerned about.
The fact is, there is no safe cigarette. Lights and ultralights are no exception. And to reduce the health effects of smoking, the best thing to do is to quit. At philipmorrisusa.com, you can find information from public health authorities on the dangers of smoking and links to help smokers who've decided to quit. Find out more. Visit philipmorrisusa.com.
A line has been drawn. On one side, you will find SUVs. On the other, sports cars. But if you draw a new line, this is what you'll find. It's a 315 horsepower brave idea called the FX. From a company called Infinity.
Lots of Wi-Fi users work in coffee shops, which aren't always the best places to work. Wouldn't it be great to work wherever you wanted instead of only in hotspots? Now you can with Verizon Wireless Broadband Access. Wi-Fi only works in limited locations, while Broadband Access is the nation's largest high-speed wireless broadband network and is expanding coast to coast. Now get unlimited access at a great price, so you won't get stuck in a not-so-hot spot. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Meet the new convertible notebook from Gateway, featuring Intel Centrino mobile technology, the industry's first 14-inch widescreen notebook with a surprise that lets you combine the power of a notebook with the inspiration of a tablet. Start something noteworthy with Microsoft Windows XP Tablet PC Edition 2005. Work wirelessly from almost anywhere with Intel Centrino mobile technology. Capture images just by drawing a circle, then paste them into documents or emails. Keep your class on the edge of their seats, even sign and close deals right on screen from wherever you are. Then enjoy a little downtime. It's guaranteed to get your work noticed. Visit gateway.com/convertible, a nearby retailer, or call 1-800-GATEWAY. Get the edge.
His adventure begins Monday on Today on NBC.
I've had my say. Now it's time for your rebuttal. Monday night, we debated Vice President Cheney's former Chief of Staff, Scooter Libby, in the CIA leak case. I challenged Ann Coulter when she said it's clear that Special Prosecutor Fitzgerald found Plame was not a covert agent, that he was only investigating another law. I asked her how she knew, and I quoted from Fitzgerald's press conference. Carolyn Raymond in Olympia, Washington. Bravo for challenging Ann, despite the fact that she got louder and more strident when you pointed out her fallacy. Dave Peters in Westlake Village, California. Ann Coulter was entirely correct in her assessment of the basis for Fitzgerald's investigation. Carefully, very carefully read the indictment again, and then listen to Fitzgerald's press conference again. Having done so, you'll come to realize that Fitzgerald admits, although obliquely, they had nowhere to go with the 1982 covert agent law. Just not so, Dave. Read Section 27 of the indictment. Read the section I read aloud. It's clear. He aggressively investigated whether Libby illegally outed a covert agent. But in the end, didn't reach a conclusion because, at least in part, he says, Libby obstructed the investigation. In Linwood, New Jersey, Jacob Reeses. Thank you so much for not just letting Ann Coulter feed her misleading comments to your viewers. I'm so sick of other news programs on other networks just eating up what she says like candy. And in my closing argument, the PC police at it again, an elementary school caving into pressure from a handful of parents who oppose costumes and other celebrations at school on Halloween. They say the holiday is religious. Lori Schmidt, you said what I've wanted to say to people for years, lighten up. I'm 56 and I still dress up on Halloween and will do so until the day I die. I said if you look back far enough, sure, you can trace the Halloween rituals to religion, but there are only a few who still see it that way, some fringe groups of so-called witches. From Chicago, regular viewer Sue Kennedy. So-called witches? Excuse me, we are Wiccans, and guess what? The U.S. military recognizes paganism and Wicca as a legitimate religion. The Halloween that little kids dress up for and the Samhain I celebrate have zero to do with one another. Well, then there is no reason for anyone to worry that candy corns and costumes at schools have anything to do with your Samhain or Hain. Anyway, we're out of time. We had other emails. All right, we have two more. See ya. Chris Matthews up next.
The question lurks, how did we get ourselves in Iraq?